awaken him, how will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate ourselves even more perfectly, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father,
Divine
Mother, friend beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Shri Yukteswarji, beloved Guruji, Paramhansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, we humbly bow before you all. Infuse our hearts and minds with your love and grace, your infinite compassion, and radiant light. Help bring yourselves to us. In our body, mind, and soul. Help us to feel your joy. And love. That we may give that light. To all whom we meet. Today. Om Peace. Amen. Please be seated.
Oh, keep a level head, boys, and preach the lighter news. Don't disappoint the gentle folk. Our church needs better pews. Jim Brown was hired to clean the church. All week he kept it fair. That Sunday with his family, he came to worship there. That Sunday with his family, he came to worship there. Oh no, poor Jim, that may not be, for then there'd be a war. Our congregation are all white, and you know what you are. Our congregation are all white, and you know what you are. Back home, Jim Brown knelt by his bed and wept till eyes grew dim. That night his room became a shrine, for Jesus came to him. That night his room became a shrine, for Jesus came to him. He said, "My child, don't feel so sad. For 20 years I too have tried to enter that very church with no more luck than you. Have tried to enter that very church with no more luck than you. But keep a level head, boys, and preach the lighter news. Don't disappoint the gentle folk. Our church needs better
As you continue to meditate, keeping your gaze pointed at the seat of superconsciousness, please listen to these words of affirmation. The affirmation for this week is generosity. Most people think of generosity as merely the giving of material benefits to others. More important, however, and much more satisfying is a generous spirit, a willingness to let the other person shine, even if it means being eclipsed oneself. A happiness in his good fortune, even if it means personal loss for oneself. A concern for his safety, even if in an accident one's own property has been destroyed. Generosity means, above all, recognizing that everything we have and are belongs to God alone and is his to dispose of where he will. And now let's affirm together, I am happy in the good fortune of all.
I am happy in the good fortune of all.
Even more than in my own.
Even more than in my own.
For in my happiness.
For in my happiness.
For them.
Lies
inner freedom.
Lies inner freedom.
And one more time. I am happy in the good fortune of all,
I am happy in the good fortune of all,
even more than in my own.
even more than in my own.
For in my happiness for them
For in my happiness for them
lies inner freedom.
lies inner freedom.
And now let's pray silently. All that I have and am is thine. Divine Mother, dispose of it as thou wilt. All that I have and am is thine. Divine Mother, dispose of it as thou wilt. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday service. If you don't know me, I'm Padma, and this is Paul. Our topic for week 33 is, Does Satan Exist? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The Bible tells us in chapter 4 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, Then, after baptism, was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. To most modern minds, this passage seems quaintly obsolete. Psychologists would say, have said, in fact, that the temptation of Jesus, if it occurred at all, was purely psychological. They call it a projection of desires lurking in his own subconscious mind. The subconscious plays a strong part, certainly, even if not a unique one in any testing the spiritual seeker must undergo. The Bhagavad Gita, in dealing with this undeniable reality, quotes Arjuna in the 3rd chapter, and then Sri Krishna's reply. Yet, tell me, teacher, said Arjuna, by what force doth man go to his ill, unwilling, as if one pushed him in that path? Krishna replied, Desire it is, passion it is, born of the darknesses, which pusheth him, mighty of appetite. Sinful and strong is this, man's enemy. Yet even Krishna describes passion as born of the darknesses. The fact is, as Paramahansa Yogananda wrote in Autobiography of a Yogi, all thoughts vibrate eternally in the cosmos. Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. A truth cannot be created, but only perceived. Psychology, yes, but psychology attuned to currents of consciousness that pervade the entire universe, attracted by each of us according to our own personal inclinations. Yogananda, quoted in The Path, said, I used to think Satan was only a human invention, but now I know and add my testimony to that of others who lived before me that Satan is a reality. He is a universal conscious force whose sole aim is to keep all beings bound to the wheel of delusion. We should take pains then to attract uplifting currents of universal consciousness and to avoid attracting the negative, which, disease that it is, can infect our thoughts, even while it leads us to believe that our thoughts are purely our own. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good to see you all. Hi. We're reading from Whispers from Eternity from Paramahansa Yogananda, in keeping with our topic of Does Satan Exist? This is called Teach Me to Use Every Dig of Criticism to Bring Myself Nearer to Thy Fountain of Goodness in Me. Teach me to sport every scar of trials as a medal of Thy chastisement, dusky at first, but now shining. Thy sacred hands were the giver, working through Thy ever-just law. Let therefore every teardrop of sorrow caused by the actions of others wash away some hidden taint in my mind. Let every stroke of the pickaxe of wounding experience dig deeper and deeper into the soil of my understanding. Let every hurtful strike of circumstance into the soil of my comfort bring me nearer to the bubbling well of thy solace in my heart. Let every gash of others' hatred bring forth from me a loving cry for thy love. Let all my trials be antidotes for bitterness to bring healing solace to my soul. Let others' unkindness inspire me to be more beautifully kind. Let their darkness not blind me too, but stimulate me to seek thy light. Let their harsh words remind me to use sweet words always. And let every bruise from stones of evil that are hurled at me intensify my inner fortitude, that I bless all with my goodness. Inspire me to be like a jasmine vine, which sheds flowers on those who administer axe blows to its roots. May I never fail to shower blossoms of help and forgiveness on all who try to cut me with their wickedness. So that's kind of an intense little reading. But it was kind of an intense little reading that we have for today. And in all truthfulness, when I bet I won't even really use these notes, but in all truthfulness, when I opened the book, because I know that I was asked to do the reading, and I opened it, does Satan exist? I was like, really? This is the topic? Okay. Years ago, I was in Bali, Indonesia, and I was, and it said, I was not as aware of the yogic teachings. I had certainly an interest. I was drawn to them. And the predominant religion in Bali, this beautiful island, anybody who's been there knows, is Hinduism. And they have these amazing, called barong dances of the Ramayana epic, which we celebrate in Diwali. But they're around Bali, all around, you see checkers, like umbrellas, and they have like designs of checkers, and you see it on different fabrics. And I was thinking, what's with the checkers all around here? You know, do they play checkers here? But it was, and one of the lovely guides said, well, this is in our teachings in the Ramayana, that there's in this land of duality, this physical realm of fire, water, air, ether, and these elements, that there's this perpetual battle of light and darkness. And they're right up against each other perpetually until we become free. We eventually become free, but there's always some. So they're, those old like movies or cartoons where Master said that there's always two, until we're liberated, to some extent, there's always two forces within us. And you could say it's a lighter side of the force and a darker side of the force. But they're always there, and it's not nearly as black and white, like let's say in Star Wars, where it's clear they're wearing black, Darth Vader is wearing black, and although the stormtroopers are in white, but still, that's a little confusing. Okay, that's appropriate. And the guru, the Sadguru, is Yoda, who's this little green guy that Luke doesn't even, it's just like, who's this little green guy? I'm looking for the master. And he's like, no, I'm the master. and that's in itself is part of the light of the wisdom of these teachings, that it's, the wisdom of a guru. One, like Master would say, that one could see a guru, a pickpocket could see a guru, and what would he see? Someone to pickpocket. Right? Makes sense. Got to make, somebody's got to do it. And so, but then there's those who have the spiritual sensitivity, and they, of course, will say, oh my gosh, who is that? And feel that call. So, but it can be, sometimes it needs to be awakened. And you could say, forgive the metaphor, but just as Luke overlooked, not just Yoda, but old Ben, are you old Ben? I'm looking for Obi-Wan. Don't you know who Obi-Wan? It's me. And so it's like that it can be, so like the whispers from eternity, the whispers of divinity, of wisdom, of the light force. I remember a teacher of ours, Mine Gyandev, up in the village would say, be open and listen. It's easily missed. It can be a whisper. It's not necessarily broadcasting with neon lights. It can be a whisper. And in fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says that virtues are few, but vices are countless. Or delusion is countless because it takes countless forms. But virtues, kindness, love, compassion, serenity, caring, these are, it's a narrow path. It's a narrow path that way. But it's the straight, they say the straight and narrow. And in our practice, of course, it's not just how we live outwardly. The guru primarily, like Yoda, works from the inside out. He helps us to learn, or she helps us to learn, how to awaken the life force, the vitality that's already dormant within us, and then to be warriors about it, and learn to meet challenges, as Master would say, like a conqueror, and with a smile, and like a king, then a conqueror, but not a proud, haughty smile, but with peacefulness, with calmness, and without and overcoming. We all have those things, you know. It's like that old ebony and ivory, the keys. There's good and bad in everyone. That song. We all have. It's in all of us. And Master would say that if you only knew, and including himself, all the horrendous things that did in previous lifetimes, we would shudder and want to shut down. But in out of us, it's still, there's these forces that are still pulling. But we know that there's more, or we wouldn't be here. We know that there is a deeper dimension, or we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be taking time out of our busy schedules to be sitting in a room like this in a strip mall. And a temple, and going out of our way, but coming out again, like from a strip mall into this holy temple, you know, and that's in itself worth taking in, and that it's everywhere. And in India, the lotus, one of the symbols of the lotus, our evolution of our souls as we open in the chakras, and the chakras are like depicted like lotuses that awaken and open. And the chakras, of course, are where we vibrate and store all our memories, of our lifetimes, all our energy is vibrating. So if we're feeling radioactive, we'll feel radioactive chakras. If we're feeling peaceful and serene, we'll be feeling loving sweetness in our chakras and fluidity. But the lotus is ubiquitous in parts of India, so I'm told. And that it's very hardy, and it can grow in the waters and cities, it's in the country, of course, and it's deeply rooted in the muddy water. And it's like our awakening starts like the mud element, the earth, in the root chakra, and then it works its way through the water, the fire, and it's that divinity is everywhere. It's not just in the country. It can be in the sewer. It can be anywhere, the lotuses. And it's really, what's that old saying, we are all of us in the gutter, but some are looking at the stars. I think that was Oscar Wilde. That we each, a yogi, of course, yes, Master would say, yes, of course there's these horrible, hellish things going on, but don't lose sight of the stars. Don't lose sight of the light. Keep that. Don't let that be your drishti, your focus, your inner drishti. And it is funny how things just with a sense of humor is such a big part of just half the battle, and not a mean sense of humor, but cultivating love. Master would say, cultivate love first. And when I was fairly new and green on this path, it was like, I don't know, 10 years ago. I've been in a couple years, and I thought I knew something. I still do, but I really don't. I'm just learning as I'm going along here. And I was in my old line of work, and we were talking with a dear friend and longtime colleague, and we were, and I thought, I was just sort of espousing some of my yogic wisdom that I had now. So she was talking about something about diet, like, oh yeah, I keep eating this food, I don't want it, and I said, oh, that sounds satanic. And you know what she said? Thank you, church lady. So I don't know if anybody remembers this Dana Carvey skit. There was a lady, this church lady, and she was all uptight, and she would always say, Martin can do it better than me, but she would always say when she was sussing someone out or trying, she had that kind of look, is that Satan? and then she would say, she'd comment like, well, isn't that special? Like if we're going to go to hell. And so, with truth be told, whenever I hear Satan, I can't get church lady out of my head. So I'm just coming clean about that. God help me not to be what I fear the most, being the church lady. Okay, up here. But it was that thing that, growing up, I was not raised really religious, and I had two parents that were kind of burned out by religion, to be honest, and had kind of gone more the hippie bohemian way. And at the same time, I was put in a Christian kindergarten for 1 year because there was daycare. She was a single mom and needed daycare. So there was just enough of that fear installed, he's watching, look out. There's that t-shirt, I don't know if anybody's seen, Jesus is coming, look busy. And so I did have that thing, there's another one, Jesus, protect me from your followers, too. So, like in the song that Vacation did, which almost brought a tear to my eye, so that there is this thing that, could it be that Satan works also in the guise of piety at times, or self-righteousness, that no, someone who's black cannot sit in the pews. They have to be, because we have to have a reputation to keep up. That is in that Psalms, which what Master was talking about. And then Jesus says, I am so sorry, I can't. I've been trying to get in here for ages and they won't let me in either. Don't cry. And that if anyone would know, Yogananda would have known, coming to the U.S. in the 1920s with his long hair and all that, that you have to look deeper than beyond just the surface, beyond the rules, and beyond. That spirit is beyond any one religion. It's obviously beyond any one ethnicity. It's beyond any gender. It's beyond. He called his fellowships the church of all religions, to help people, not necessarily to Indianize people, but to help them realize self-realization is universal. And that's the way, and it begins within. In the olden days, and often in Christianity, it was either you're one of the people watching, sitting there, and then there was the priest, or the enlightened, but there was this disconnect, I'm going to keep, opening for that grace, but I'm just a mere schmuck, doing the best I can, and what Master said is no. And it was not like Swami would say. He always said it. It just would always get me, that Master didn't come, Yogananda, to show how great he was. He came to show how great we could be and are. That awakening of the chakras in our spine. The journey, the spiritual journey, is basically like, depending on how tall you are, about, 6 feet or so, or 4 feet, and it's in our spine. It's in our spine. That's the real temple, and that's why the chant Keshava did is so got me touched too, because it's that, who is in my temple? It's within. All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. When we awaken and realize that the mud is just the mud, and it's not bad, but it helps us we need to awaken, that we lift that awareness above. The lotus rises, it moves through, and then it comes up. And then what does the lotus do? It opens its petals, and have anybody ever seen a dirty looking lotus? Petals? I've never seen one with mud on it. Master says, spotless is my mental sky. When we become open and come into that, like the crown chakra opening, the mud was needed as part of this evolution, but the lotus, then we're free. We're free of like that checkerboard of light, of dark, of that. But it's this journey, and it's this sinewy journey of the soul. And we may say, okay, that's all fine and good, lovely, sounds good on paper, and we may, but I also want to, the whole thing of Satan, all kidding aside, that the forces of darkness feel really, really around lately to me. And I'm not going to say anything other. I'm going to leave everybody up for their own interpretation of how they feel about that. But it's not, even if someone does not watch the news, all you got to do is go on Facebook and something pops up on the side on the sidebar, like, what? Now? Again, this? And just when you think it could get any worse, something else comes up. And it's not, the real yoga teaches is that the real battle is, yes, there's the instruments, there's the weapons, there's all of that. But the real battle is in vibrational level consciousness of the lighter and darker sides of the force. This is just how, and it's a battle of consciousness of the lower ego in the Kali Yuga, of trying to control and suppress, and to the Dwapara, which is thankfully the age we're in and been moving into just recently, of energy. And everywhere we hear about energy today, and have been, and how do we, what were the things that Master taught to help us? Because he lived in gnarly times too. He was in the Great Depression and he came into the West. He was an Indian guy. They had Hitler, they had Stalin, and a number of things. And I think pretty much most of us know these, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded that, one, he had things he'd say. If you listen to his talks, he says them over and over. Love God, and love God. But we could say, well, what in the world does that mean? I used to feel that, like, okay, fine, love God, but what? How do I love God? I know I love people, I know I love praying or whatever, but how do I love God? And there's different ways, but one is simply to meditate and tune into God in meditation and prayer. That to be open to sending in love and to be willing, we give, what's that, the love you take is equal to the love you make in the end, that saying. So it's like we receive what we put out, basically. And so that giving of that, our hearts, our love, we can do that, and then start to just look for ways that the opening to the grace. It could be in just nature or other people, in situations, ways to serve. Okay, but what makes it much easier to love God? I already said we meditate. The Kriya practice, those of us who practice Kriya, it takes us directly in the grooves, in our consciousness, in the chakras and the spine, and it redirects us back to that sacred source of light that it all kind of came out of. It takes us back into that, not original sin, but to our original purity, original innocence. So practicing the meditation, and those of us, who have that gift, it's a gift, and it's a tool to take us to freedom. Nothing short of that. And so that makes it much easier to love God and have that spiritual sensitivity. And then he would say, serve others and give that love to all. And I don't know about you, but that's easy. That reads easy and does hard sometimes. I mean, truth be told, I can, and it's a practice. So he said, cultivate first. Cultivate love first. He even said, speak not even of truth, if love is not first cultivated in your heart. Like, it's that important. Because what happens is it's the love, that sense of judgment. And I'll confess, although I've had my share of righteous indignation lately for the past year or two, and of all the crazy mass karma going on. And I've had to really work on that, like be aware that, okay, I don't want this stuff in me, It's like that old saying, Nietzsche, you don't want to become a monster in dealing with monsters. And so I've been cultivating, though, it's called impersonal love, like, which is what Guru talked about, like being a channel of that love to all. And in the Gita, it says loving your friends, your family, your enemies, all equally, or those you perceive, or those that perceive themselves to be your enemies. I don't really feel like I have enemies, but even perhaps those who perceive themselves to be. And because otherwise, it's said that wheel of karma, that of the dream, the cosmic dream, is eternal. And it goes on until finally start to release. And then that's the other part, is the guru himself or herself, that of a realized master. They're already saying, hey, I'm here, help, I can help, call. And so it's the attunement. It's the attunement to one who's already pierced through the veil and is already in that divine joy and free. And that's the forklift to the guru, the magnetism and satsang, to be reminded. So, and lastly, I would just say that I could say the devil, we're going to call it, an evil force. I think of like the Emperor, the third Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, when wants us to be mad at each other or angry or get snippy and he's when that point when Luke is getting really riled up and trying to slay Darth Vader, and the Emperor saying, good, I feel your hate, building inside of you. And that's the devil energy. That's the satanic energy. And it's real. And there's a lot of it out, but one of the ways is just to be willing to keep showing up, keep trying to say, okay, I messed up a little bit today, but I'm going to start over again. I'm going to keep doing my best. I'm going to keep loving, and I'm going to keep reaching and opening for spirit. And the way of the delusion is sometimes when we get hard on ourselves, it may be like, I'm not good enough, I'm not a Yogananda, I'm not a blah, blah, blah. But no, each of us is moving, and it's our heart. If we really open, we'll be guided. Grace finds a way. And I'll just close with a brief story, an Indian story about the cracked pot. Some of you may know the story about the cracked pot or cracked pot. Okay. And there was a man who was a humble servant of his Lord, and every day he had this back-breaking work. He would carry on his back this wooden stick, big thing, rod, and he had two big clay pots and full of water, or so it seemed. And he would take them like every day up this steep mountain to his Lord, and he would let it be a form of service. And one of the pots was really shiny and held the water beautifully. It was like a rippleless lake. It was so beautiful. And this pot was very proud because it was so together and shiny. And then there was the other pot though, be it as it may, was cracked. It was a cracked pot, okay? And this pot kept leaking water. Every time you go up, it seemed like by the time the man would get to the Lord, the water was mostly gone. And this cracked pot was feeling very inadequate. Like, what is wrong with me? I can't keep it together. So the pot was crying all the time, and the water was pouring out. And finally, the man sat down for a little rest, and he noticed the pot was crying still. And he said, "Well, what's the matter, cracked pot?" And the pot says, "I cannot do my job for you. I can't. I'm inadequate. I'm broken." And the man paused and he said, "No, my dear cracked pot, have you looked around you? All along the path have been the beautiful flowers. That the water you did created beautiful flowers to grow. And that gave me beauty on this back-breaking work that I could see and appreciate. So we don't know really." Master said, if you only knew the beauty within you, we don't really know the beauty there as much. The Guru can see it. And if we can take our brokenness, and rather than using it to bang against each other and create more brokenness, embrace the brokenness and offer it. It says the heart that's broken is the heart that's open, but we can take it a step further and open our heart to God, to the divine, the Guru. Let that love flow through, and then we can share beautiful flowers of our hearts with each other and God, and give to our Guru. Joy to you.